2024 in crystal clear HD stereo. Today's pregame show is brought to you by
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
Yes, good morning. It's your Cowboys pregame show presented by Reliant and NRG Company. Welcome to Week 15, ladies and gentlemen, as the Cowboys look to get their first victory of the season over one of the Big Cat teams. You fall to the Lions, you fall to the Bengals last week. You were in a dogfight with the Bengal last week, and you came out of there with the L.
Yeah,
trying to put
only you would figure all this out as we get to this.
You gotta get in the win column. The Big Cat teams, man.
Yeah.
And you didn't get the Big Cat gauntlet this year because you didn't have the Jags on the schedule.
Right.
But you got 3 of the 4 Big Cat teams in the sport. You're 0-2.
Yeah.
Let's not be 0 for versus these guys. You got the Panthers now. No Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah.
The Pets' heads continue to fall off of this football team.
We got that news a little bit last night, right? That he was not going to make the trip and not going to play after, playing against the Bengals and all that. So yeah, but we've talked about this, Eric. I mean, it's been one of those things when you bring up the subject of Diggs. He's been dealing with the knee, but he practices up to a certain point. He gets to a Saturday, and then what happens?
Yeah.
I feel good to go. Next week, I don't feel good to go. So that's the tough part about this is, the Cowboys, just when they seem to take that one step forward, then it really is 2 steps back. You can't get, all your players on the field at the same time, and that's really kind of been a problem all year. But there's been, a lot of bad football played along the way, even when they had all their guys healthy.
No doubt about it. Yeah, and I do wonder how much the injury excuses are going to be made as we get into the offseason and the front office.
You think it's going to keep Mike McCarthy around, aren't you?
I certainly think there's a real chance of that because now the bar's been lowered to, hey, just his guys didn't quit on him.
Yeah.
And everybody was injured, and you can conveniently forget that even when the team was healthy to start the season, things were in bad shape.
They like to remind us they're a young team, right?
Oh yeah. Draft and develop.
Young
baby.
players aren't going to quit. Young players in the NFL aren't going to quit.
Ooh, okay, I like
you
this.
roll a veteran team out there. You roll a team out there, man. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to brain dead this thing. Give me a veteran team that's going through all the things that the Cowboys have gone through. Like you're saying, man. Okay, maybe the Jets. Veteran team.
There you go.
The Tyron Smiths, the Aaron Rodgers. I know those have ended up in some injuries.
Devontae Adams. You give me a veteran team. Yeah.
And they're going to find a way not to play as hard as they need to play every week. You're playing with young players here. You're playing with guys that are like first-year starters. Look at Hoffman, Bass, guys like that, Overshown. I mean, just first-year starters, they're going to play hard. They've got no choice. If they don't play hard, they're not going to go. They're not going to keep jobs.
Right.
You're a veteran team. This team would have quit when Dak got hurt. That's when this team would have quit. But they're not because they're a really young team in a lot of areas.
Mm-hmm. And
what's happened, they've kind of eliminated, Zach Martin, veteran guy, older guy, got hurt. He's not playing anymore, Not that Zach Martin's going to quit, but you roll out there with Don Terry Poe and guys like that they've had in the past.
Yeah. They're throwing that towel.
Yeah. You're cheerleading right now because you got the 4th overall pick. Young team ain't going to quit.
No.
And you can't, and if you're using that as an excuse
to keep McCarthy around,
then you really don't have a good understanding of what this is all about.
Yeah, or just do what it seems like they're...
And that might be the case.
Yeah.
This might, 30-some-odd, 35 years of, they've had some success. They've had regular season success. To me, if you want to keep Mike McCarthy, and this is like post-game show talk, but we're going to do it here at 9:05 Central Time on a Sunday morning.
Welcome to Week 15 when you're a 5-win football team.
Yeah, that's what you're going to do. But if you want to keep Mike McCarthy around, then Mike McCarthy doesn't need to be calling plays. That is my argument right now. Like, okay, fine. Mike McCarthy will find a way to get a team ready for a Sunday game. He will get the team to Sunday. He'll practice. He'll watch the GPS numbers. He'll make sure they have rest. He'll be very mindful if they play a Sunday night game and they have to turn around and play a Thursday game or whatever. He'll be very mindful of that. His record shows that. He's like the short week master.
Yeah,
until last week, I guess. Or last week Monday night was a long week. He had more than 10 days or 10 days.
Yeah.
So, but that's what I'm saying. Mike McCarthy understands how to get his team to the ball game. Mike McCarthy has yet to kind of figure out, though, like with the team, with the current team, the way it is, to find a way to make sure that, much like with Green Bay, I'm just saying Green Bay, it's not because I work with the Packers, but what do they do when their quarterback goes down? They completely retool their offense.
Right.
They do so. And Mike McCarthy's inability to kind of get this offense, and me personally, I felt like that he was responsible for the loss on Monday night. I feel like that. Yeah, you could talk about Bones Fossil and a punt and a block punt and AO making an unfortunate play, but his inability to kind of keep things going offensively when he had something good going, that was your downfall last Monday night.
Not staying with Rico.
No, not and
running all over the Bengals.
Yeah, and saying going into this, and we're going to talk about Carolina today, and they're going to be awful on defense. Playing a little bit better on offense, though. Mm-hmm. And there's some things that they will give Dallas some problems with. This is why I think it'll be a really close game because Carolina's offense will keep them in this game. But Carolina's defense needs to be attacked. And will this coach or play caller be willing to do that? And I think there's times he loses his way, on the path of to victory. And that's why this team is kind of in the shape it's in right now.
Yeah, with not sticking with what's working, stuff like that.
Hell no.
And you mentioned the Packers and Matt LaFleur, and when Malik Willis had to step in for Jordan Love, they revamped things, and that is a unique skill. That is that's something that you want out of your coach, and even like Mike McDaniel with the Dolphins doesn't do that.
No,
he's got Tua, and then then Tua gets hurt, and it's like we got this same offense,
running the same offense,
and nobody knows how to run it. Now you're scoring like 10 points a game, so
right.
it's a unique skill, but the best coaches have that.
Yeah,
and it doesn't feel like, even though this has definitely been from Garrett to McCarthy a level up.
Yeah.
There's still another level to get to if you want your premium coaches.
You're still beating bad teams.
Right.
You're still kind of figuring out.
Yeah, that's true.
Take McCarthy's division record out of this thing, and now all of a sudden you're kind of going, whoa, what's this all about?
Yeah.
All you can ask for as a fan base is to have a coach that's a difference maker. Andy Reid is a difference maker. He's got a great quarterback. He's got a great defensive coordinator. His defensive coordinator makes a difference. When their offense is poochies, as you like to say,
mm-hmm.
their defense finds a way to go win a game. Spags. Yeah, they find a way to go win a game. Him and Andy have been together a long time. Spags left to go coach the Rams, kind of figured out, I'm not a very good head coach. Then he comes back, comes to work, and now you got coaches that make a difference. If you're in a situation where your team is not the most talented or not the healthiest, you got to find a way to make a difference, be a difference maker as a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cowboys don't have that with their head coach currently.
No, they haven't in a long time. All right, 877-881-1053. Yesterday, we were in the midst of partying with the Tolos at Martin House in Fort Worth, having a great time. Yeah. You could probably hear it in both of our voices right now.
Little shake voice going on.
I am still very much so in recovery mode. But we got the news during. I think it was me and Wolchuk sat down with Fred and Blake, just round table and having a good time. And then boom, Jay Glazer hits us with the tweet that the hits keep coming for the Cowboys in a year where they have been decimated by injuries. You have Trayvon Diggs now going to be out for not only today's game, but he's out for the rest of the year, and he's going to be having season-ending knee surgery.
Yeah.
So, and I believe it's on the same knee where he had the ACL, but it's not the ACL. It's a different deal. I don't know if we've gotten any details on what exactly it is.
I've got to find out exactly what the details on that, but that's something that, they felt like that they felt like that he was making progress, and then he doesn't make progress, and then the more he played, then that was going to be a problem. So, yeah, it was it's really, really unfortunate that they were not able to, they probably feel like, well, it's something that needs to be fixed. It's just not going to get better. I was always told with his situation, it's like, hey, we really don't know. We really don't know if he's going to play. I mean, he seems fit when he practices. Now he's not fit. This was just kind of an unfortunate situation from the word go. Once his knee got banged up the way it did, then it just became a week-to-week thing, and they just figured out that with 4 weeks to go that it's best that they get this thing fixed and get it ready for next season.
Well, now you're taking on a Panthers team, and they are underdogs no more for the first time in 34 games in a stretch that spans of nearly 2 years.
Yeah.
The Panthers finally favored to win a game today as they welcome the Cowboys to town.
Chance.
And you mentioned the defense. We can chat about that a little bit, but I do want to get your thoughts on what Bryce Young is doing, because he has revitalized himself and this Panthers offense. All it took was a benching and then Andy Dalton getting into a fender bender, and they're like, crap, we got to go back to Bryce Young. And thanks to the car accident to Andy Dalton, in comes Bryce Young with a newfound confidence and a newfound willingness to stand in the pocket, take a shot, and still deliver the football.
Yeah, and what's really helped them is the fact that they have one of the better runners in the game, veteran with Chuba Hubbard, and what he's been able to do is over 1,000 yards. They're going to, in a lot of situations, they're going to hand him the ball when they feel like when the game gets a little tight, gets a little tough. They'll find a way to get him the football, whether it's hand it to him, throw it to him. We saw what Chase Brown was able to do last week or Monday night against the Cowboys from the running back spot. Kind of have a feeling that Dave Canellis and this Carolina Panther offensive staff are going to do the same thing. They're going to try and get Chuba Hubbard involved running the football first, and then also, don't be surprised, some empty formations, some screens, some slot plays. They feel like if they get the ball in his hands, he's a good player. Where they're also really, we've seen some teams that have done this to Dallas this year and play with condensed formations. And when I mean condensed, it's tight. You have you have trips to one side, a single receiver to the other, one back, but it's a tight, and it's plays with bunch formations that way. Dallas has had some trouble sorting those things out. The man coverage aspect of it, guys running through the middle of it. When you look at Adam Thielen, he was banged up for like 3 or 4 weeks, and now he's back. He's had some really good games. Game against the Eagles, game against the Buccaneers. I look at the Carolina Panthers as a team. Don't look at the first half of the season. Look at where they are from like the Giants game that they won in Germany to where they are now. Their record's like 2-3, but the losses: Kansas City, Philadelphia, Tampa,
all one-score games. All
games where Bryce Young had played really well in the first half of the game. I mean, he lit Kansas City up the first half of their game, and they just haven't found a way to finish. And the issues that they have are the issues that Dallas has, and this is once again one of those things that you kind of look at and say, okay, how this game going to go? The issues Dallas have, and Dallas has been better. Dallas has been better when it comes to the run defense aspect of things. They've played better against. They've kind of bottled up some guys. The running quarterback has been a problem. I wouldn't be surprised you see some design runs today from Bryce Young, just snaps, power runs, things like that. You guys got to be ready for things. Teams are just looking at Dallas right now, and they're just saying, okay, they really don't defend the run great, but hey, we could take advantage of that with our backs, and it's going to be a challenge today. Just because this offense they do a good job with some of the protection stuff. They play with condensed formations, the bunch formations. They make you try and have to carry guys, and that's been a little bit of a problem for the Cowboys this year.
Yeah, I was wondering what was going to happen with no Overshown, and then you get Chuba Hubbard out of the backfield.
Yeah.
Overshown was kind of that guy.
He was
covering backs out of the backfield. So with the loss of Overshown, that's certainly disappointing.
This is where now young guy don't quit ball takes place. Here's Maris Leofow. rookie. You know,
he was a bright spot last week.
When the one thing I could say about Maris Chiofalo is when you watch him play, that like his ability to rush the passer, his ability to be around the ball. Have you noticed when there's a turnover, he's usually involved now? If it's like a fumble on the deck, he's right there to pick it up, picking it up. He's causing stuff. He's going to get the opportunity to be the guy this week. He usually plays in the base formation, the base defensive packages, normal down and distance stuff. And now he's going to have to be the guy that's not only base guy, nickel guy, rusher guy, cover guy. He's going to have a lot on his plate today. And let's be honest, too. Eric Kendricks isn't exactly very healthy. So here we are. We're into week 15, and your starters.
I'm hoping he plays today.
Yeah, your starters are really, really banged up. If not, boy, this is going to. Your young guys are going to have to get a lot of work today.
All right, we're just getting started here on a Cowboys game day. We still we're loaded. We're going inside the Star live from Charlotte with Bobby Belt, our Cowboys insider, coming up here in just a bit. Jake Delhomme, former Panthers quarterback. He's on Panthers radio, and we'll be doing some behind enemy lines with him. Greg Olsen, Brad Sham. We're rocking and rolling here on a Cowboy game day.
Couple of Carolina guys, Olsen and
I know
and Jake Delhomme.
Yeah, they're going to know these Panthers very, very well. But let's hear from Brock Hoffman. He's the subject of today's player profile with Chris Arnold. We'll hear from him next right here on The Fan.
Football season is here. to learn more.
SWBC Mortgage Corporation, NMLS number 9741, an equal housing lender.
Gosh, I love a noon kickoff. Are you kidding me? We are now just over 2.5 hours to Cowboys and Panthers. We'll go out to Charlotte with our Cowboys insider, Bobby Belt, coming up here in just a few minutes. We'll take a look around the NFL here as well because, man, the slate for today with playoff implications all over the place. Really, really fun games that we can look forward to, especially in that late afternoon slate after this Cowboys game. But let's go ahead and tee up the player profile for today. It's the three-time Hall of Famer standing by. It's Chris Arnold with Brock Hoffman, who's been in for Zach Martin, filling in like a beast. Now he's moving over to center. Versatile dude, tough as nails. Take it away, CA.
Brock Hoffman, how you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm doing good.
You look like you're going to have your hands full going to this Carolina game because you've been utilized a lot. Can you talk about what your responsibilities on this offensive line will be this time? Center, right guard, I mean, they utilize you everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think going into this game, it's definitely looking like more center. Just kind of depends with BB's health and whatnot. But, yeah, I mean, whatever I got to do, I'll be ready to go.
What everybody likes, according to your teammates and your coaches, is your attitude. You bring something. You got that it factor. Can you talk about your attitude out there playing football?
Yeah, I feel like it's just the demeanor I bring to the game and like the way I want to play and the way I want to go after defensive linemen and defenses as a whole. Honestly, it's really just I was always grown up and I was always taught that football is a violent game and you got to be nasty, and if you're it's not meant for guys that are going to be soft, So that's kind of always what I've done, and everything that's led up to this moment in terms of my journey has just kind of been fuel to the fire and just kept building that chip on my shoulder.
Can you talk about how much you have played center in the past, in your career and in college and high school or whatever?
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up playing center. I've honestly played it since literally third grade, which is kind of crazy. My dad was a former college coach, and growing up, he coached me in elementary school, and he told me one of the most important positions is center if you're going to be an offensive lineman, right? And at that age, I wasn't big enough, probably to be a tackle, right? So he was like, "We're gonna put the ball in your hands." So, yeah, that's where I started playing center, and then in high school, middle school, I played center, and then college, I played 1 full year at right guard, and 3 years at center. So, I've really kind of just bounced around, but for the most part, I've been a center, yeah.
You talk about the attitude in this locker room. Nobody has quit. Nobody's making business decisions. You got a bunch of dogs in here, including yourself. Can you talk about how that is carried on through this season of crazy injuries and crazy losses that no one expected?
Yeah, and I think you look at this season and you see how tough it's been, right, with injuries, and then, like you said, crazy losses where it's like, damn, one play change here, we win that game, or maybe we start a little better in the game and we don't have to come all the way back like in Baltimore. So it's just, we faced a lot of adversity, but I think the one thing that this locker room has is brotherhood and a really, really good culture and foundation that's been set here for years. And I think there's a lot of love for one another, player to player and also player to coach. I think a lot of us players, respect the hell out of our coaches and we'll fight for them for sure.
All right, tell us what we need to know about the Carolina defense.
They're pretty solid. They're multiple, right? They're going to come out in a bunch of different fronts and try to, confuse you in that way. But, for us, it's just going out there, doing what we do, being physical and just pounding and wearing them down each play. And, hopefully at the end of the day, when the clock hits zero, we got more points than they do.
And finally, I always ask the guys before the game. It's a midday game. You have anything special you do on a morning? Is it you want quiet? You want loudness? You want some music? You want to eat a certain special thing? Or you got superstitions?
Nah, for me, it's really when I'm in the, especially like a away game, right? When the page turns to game time, it's like I turn my music on loud and I hop in the shower. So like I have the music on while I'm in the shower, kind of waking myself up, right, for those early games. And once I get out of the shower, it's game mode for sure.
Good luck this afternoon, bro. I appreciate you.
Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
There it is, Brock Hoffman, ladies and gentlemen, filling in like a beast for Zach Martin, now having to bump over back to his home position of center now that Cooper Beebe's dealing with the concussion. But he's been pretty awesome, man. He brings a level of nastiness to the offensive line and just a fresh body there with Zach Martin, who had been laboring with all the injuries all season long. You can see how it's affected the rushing attack with Rico and company. Is this a guy that you could see starting next season?
See, that's the question that you now have to ask yourself. I mean, he was... What's so interesting was that he was the starter in training camp. And then, I know I was looking forward to BB being the center. I was thinking, hey, plug and play, let's go, So, but the one thing that Brock Hoffman is always going to show you is he's going to show you the toughness. He's going to show you the ability to finish blocks. He's going to always be the guy that's being one of the smartest guys in the room. The football intelligence is really, really high. The question you have to ask yourself now is, will he keep you from drafting, say, a guard high in this draft, in this upcoming draft? We've seen some guys, some tackles, very high in this draft that's coming up that could be plug and play, go from tackles to plug and play at guard. So, Banks, the tackle from Texas, kind of projects as a guard. Would you be willing with your high pick to take a guy like that, much like you did Zach Martin? You took Zach Martin pretty high in the draft, and then he had a Hall of Fame career for you. So the evaluation now is, do you feel like that Hoffman at guard or Bassett guard would keep you from drafting, say, a tackle to move to guard in this upcoming draft? That's the big questions you got going forward.
Yeah, and I don't think it would stop me from doing that. I mean, you can never really have enough offensive linemen.
Yeah, but
they've at least given you now the opportunity to say you don't feel like you have to take.
Yeah, there's a couple of spots now you don't feel like you have to have, and have to have right now running back, probably not. Have to have guard, probably not. But this team has got a lot of holes. I mean, a lot of holes. And if they're going to go into that mode of not bring anybody back or go sign anybody, they're going to lose a lot of players. 10 draft picks and college free agent money is not going to fill all the holes that you're going to have. So you got to be very mindful. If you're going to replace players with the draft, you have to be very mindful of the positions you replace.
All right, we'll go live to Charlotte Bank of America Stadium with our Cowboys insider Bobby Belt coming up here in just a few minutes. I did want to take a look around the league today on a football Sunday here, Broaddus. I mean, we got Bills and Lions.
Yeah.
Combined 22-4 win-loss record. That's tied for the fourth highest win percentage in any game week 15 or later since the 1970 merger. Yeah. And I know how much you love the merger stats.
I love the merger stats. Those are my favorite.
I mean, since week 6, these teams have a combined record of 16-1, and the only loss was last week. Buffalo, they scored 42 versus the Rams.
Still
took the L.
Right.
So, I mean, the Lions have been the best team in the league this year, and the Bills are now looking like coming into the season, everybody was kind of down and out on the Bills, but Josh Allen, MVP caliber, and obviously beating Kansas City, and so they're feeling good about their chances.
Yeah,
right
when
now.
we go back, when you and I are in our shows in New Orleans for the Super Bowl, we're going to look back and remember that matchup in Week 15 when it was the Bills and the Lions? This very well could be a Super Bowl matchup right now. I mean, I know Pat Mahomes has something to say about that, but man, the Buffalo Bills look like a team that are kind of going in that right direction. Unfortunately for them last week, man, that was a tough one against the Rams. But you kind of see what happened. The Rams came back on a short week and were able to get some stuff done against the 49ers. So a good week for the Rams getting back in the NFC West action.
Yeah, the thing with Buffalo is just these teams are able to run on them. Earlier in the season, Baltimore, Buffalo, and Baltimore blows the doors off them. They're too physical, and they can run right at them. Even the Rams last week were able to do just that. And then the Lions, I mean, that's their bread and butter. I mean, they're an offense that can really beat you in every single possible way, but we know about that vaunted rushing attack. I think that'll certainly be the difference in this game. Detroit's a 2-point home favorite there. Of course, if this game was in Buffalo, then that would be a different conversation. But they have the highest total for an NFL game in 2 years as well. They got the over-under at 55.
Yeah.
So expecting plenty of points today in Detroit, but that's going to be definitely a fun game and certainly a Super Bowl preview potentially. Now, you also have Sunday Night Football, Packers and Seahawks. I mean, if the playoffs started today,
those two teams would be playing each other.
Yeah,
right?
that'd be the wild card game right there. So
maybe we're getting these previews. Maybe we're getting these end of the season previews of these games and potential playoff games. There's a really great history between actually the Seahawks and the Packers, and it really it goes back to Mike Holmgren when he was with us in Green Bay, then went and took over. There was things that the possibility we were going to give him more responsibility in Green Bay. Ron Wolf was, and he decided, no, I'm going to go run my own show. And there's a lot of guys that left the Packers that went and worked in Seattle, and then some that came back. And there's a history of front office, kind of team building from both those organizations, DNA for both groups. With John Snyder, my former intern, being the general manager, he's been the general manager quite a long time now. But there's some Green Bay Packer DNA in the Seahawks, and then also some of the stuff that. Some guys that were at Seattle that are now in Green Bay. So it's always an interesting matchup between those two.
I'll never forget Seahawks versus Packers at Lambeau
with the coin toss
overtime.
We'll take the ball and we're about to win.
Yeah, we'll take the ball and we're gonna score. Matt Hasselback, and then he throws a pick six.
Yeah.
To Al Harris.
Al Harris, yeah. How about that?
Our very own Al Harris. It all comes full circle today.
Yep.
So that's going to be a fun one. Sunday Night Football. Local legend, NFL Ironman Max Crosby, edge rusher for the Raiders.
Yep.
We just shouted him out on G-Bag earlier this week because he has done the unprecedented thing of being a defensive lineman, and he had been on a streak of 446 snaps in a row played. Like, you never see that from defensive linemen. And so he's just a beast, never comes off the field, but of course that's resulted in an ankle injury that's going to keep him out for the rest of the season now. So that's kind of the bed you have to sleep in when you're a guy that's such a physical beast like him. And of course the Raiders are looking to go get that number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
I saw Ian Rappaport saying today, like, Tom Brady, who's now a part owner of the Raiders, he's going to be heavily involved in selecting the Raiders' next quarterback. And if they're picking number 1, this is a surefire. Shadur Sanders is going to be a Raider.
I think that
he's a TB12 guy.
Yeah, if you ask maybe Deion Sanders where he would like his son to go, it seems like that, and that really all kind of I think lines up with depending on who the coach is still. Is our head coach still in the building?
Right. Is Antonio Pierce still going to be there?
Yeah, is Antonio. And man, they can't go one and done again this year. I mean, it seems like all they've done is one and done stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm super interested to see how this Raiders thing goes in terms of if they end up one and doneing Antonio Pierce. But it seems like Coach Prime is a fan of Antonio Pierce and would be welcoming Shadur going to the Raiders, especially if Pierce is the coach.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the problem is that the Raiders have gone through that New England. They've gone through having a New England general manager. Josh McDaniels being the coach. You want to go through all that again? I don't think Tom Brady. Yeah, he's new part owner now, and he could be an influencer, but. Do you want to bring back that whole thing? I don't know if they want to dance that dance anymore.
No, I get that for sure. Now, you also have the Jets looking to hire a new general manager, and ESPN analyst Louis Riddick is among the candidates who will be getting an interview. So that dumpster fire, I don't know who. I don't know who
Louis Riddick
really wants that job.
Louis Riddick does a really nice job of not only his commentary, you get him on college games, but you get him on the pro games. He's a guy that you kind of, as a leader, you'd follow him. He's got a very good understanding of how the game works. He's worked in the college game, calling these games. Mm-hmm. He'll have an idea of personnel. The Jets, I don't think it's always been the problem of the personnel, but the coaches. I mean, I don't know if Robert Saleh. Probably one of these guys that's a really good assistant coach, probably a really bad head coach. There's some guys like that throughout history that have been that way. Look at Norv Turner with the Cowboys, all the success he has. Norv Turner was just kind of a, middle of the road coach wherever he went. So there's guys that have that ability to go be from assistants to being really good head coaches, and maybe Bob Saleh wasn't one of those guys.
All right, we're just over 2 hours and 20 minutes to a Cowboy kickoff, the rare noon kick as the Cowboys take on the Panthers. Let's go live to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina. Inside the Star with Bobby Belt next right here on The Fan.
Bell Nunley has been committed to serving.
country's greatest heroes. Learn more and get involved at mohmuseum.org.
All right, here we go. Under 2 hours and 20 minutes to kick off. Let's go to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, North Carolina, and welcome in Bobby Belt, our Cowboys insider, as we go inside the Star here on the official pregame show of America's team. Bobby, are you out of breath? I'm sure you've been running all over the place trying to get up into the press box this morning.
Bro, I'm totally out of breath. I've never seen a team that operates or a stadium that does it this way. Typically, we get our credentials right there on the plane. And not this time. You're supposed to pick them up at will call. So this is the only stadium in the NFL that does that. So I picked it up and booked it on up here. So I'm sucking wind.
Why do I feel like, though, that maybe that our PR department let you down on this one? That maybe they just
hey, we're not going to.
Maybe they're like tired of your opinions, from 6 to 10 Monday through Friday of ripping their ass for not playing very well.
Yeah, specifically Tuesday at 8:30 maybe.
Yeah.
No, it was honestly. I talked to a couple different people, John Machota, others, and they're like, yeah, it's a pain. This is what you got to do. You got to run over there. So they literally drop us at security, and the will call is like right next to it. But there's a gate there, so they make you walk the entire length of the stadium back around.
Can you hear the remnants of a Martin House party in our voices this morning, Bobby?
Yeah. I'm very disappointed that I didn't get to be there. I heard it was a great turnout, and it looked like a lot of fun. And, I definitely had FOMO.
Yeah, well, I missed you. I didn't even realize it until I was driving over to the party, and I was like, oh, wait, Bobby's probably on an airplane right now. I'm not even going to get to see Bob. Disappointing. It's great to hear from you now. This is going to be a more fun game than we anticipated maybe a few weeks back with the way Bryce Young's throwing the football, with the way Rico's running the football. But I'm curious your thoughts on Bryce Young and the way he's been playing as of late.
Yeah, I think with Bryce Young, it's just been about a guy who looks more comfortable, more confident. Specifically, it's the stuff that in the face of pressure. So he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL last year when it came to playing with pressure. And that continued into this year. He was better this year, but he still was not good early on whenever teams get pressure on him. And so that looked like it was the formula for a long time. The last 3 weeks, he's been really good there. He looks comfortable, confident. He's willing to stand in, deliver the ball, take a hit. He's willing to break from the pocket, get north whenever he needs to. And there's other times where he's just willing to kind of like make a slide or step up a little bit, throw off platform. So he's been really, really good. He looks more the last 3 weeks like the Bryce Young at Alabama, because the first year and a half he was here in Carolina, it didn't look like that at all.
Hey, Bobby, I think it's a bad omen today that Adam Thielen walked into the stadium with a Randy Moss jersey on. I think that's a really bad omen because we've seen Randy Moss light up the Cowboys. But, no Diggs. This secondary has kind of been just trying to kind of piece things together all year. It hasn't been that, well for them. How do they play today, though? Or are we just used to the fact that they're the mix match of all the guys? It is what it is.
Yeah, I think Mike Zimmer is just used to the fact of he's going to have to make adjustments, and he's not going to have his full arsenal of weapons. And look, Mike Zimmer's been in the league a long time. It's been 30-plus years for Mike Zimmer in the NFL, and so he understands that as a reality, I think, week to week in the NFL, specifically as a guy, a defensive backs coach who, my goodness, like just think of the time he spent here in Dallas early on as the defensive backs coach. He had Kevin Smith, who for a lot of the time that he was with Mike Zimmer was hurt.
College football Hall of Famer Kevin Smith.
Yeah. Deion Sanders obviously had his different things that he was dealing with in terms of health issues. And so, I mean, they've had injury issues, obviously, under Mike Zimmer before in their secondary that he's had to deal with to a great extent. And so I'm sure he's used to it at this point. And maybe in a way it's a little bit easier if you're looking for a silver lining, just in the fact that, like, this is the first year and he's still trying to figure out his personnel. And so there's probably going to be some mixing and matching and figuring out what things are. I mean, that was what the first half of the season felt like.
Yeah.
So I think he's comfortable with this. He doesn't prefer it, but I think he's comfortable having to operate knowing, all right, I got to change out some pieces. Not the first time.
Bobby, I need Maris Leofau to win the Hager Slacks Big Play Award for his efforts today. You feeling the same way about what he's going to have to do in this one?
I got to say, it was such a we didn't even discuss it. I can't say it was an under-discussed storyline. It wasn't even a storyline last week, but that entire sideline was devastated after Marty and Overshone went down. And And Maris Leofau is no different, and he had to come in and actually replace Overshown. And he came out there and played with his hair on fire and picked up a couple sacks and made a difference and actually popped there in that time spent with Overshown. So I thought that was something that didn't get discussed enough last week, was just the mental toughness and focus in a moment that could have been very easily distracting for Leofau to come out there and make a difference. But he's been really good for them this year. I don't know that we've talked enough about it. He had some struggles early on, but I think he's settled down pretty well. And if you look at the numbers when he's on the field versus off the field in run defense, there is no player right now that causes a more dramatic shift in their run defense than Maris Leofau. I think it's like 1.1 yards difference when he's on the field versus off it in terms of rush yards.
Yeah.
So he's been
for the better.
Yeah, for the better. So they actually allow, I think it's something like they allow 3.9 when he's on the field, and it's 5.0 when he's off. The only other guy who's close, I think Linval Joseph is similar to that. Like he's got numbers that are similar. But Leofau's been fantastic, I feel like, the last couple weeks, especially for a guy who there looked like there was still some rawness and some things he was figuring out when he was coming out of Notre Dame. I think he's grown a lot, and it makes me optimistic for what he can do moving forward.
Bobby, Carolina, horrible in run defense. Good opportunity for Mike McCarthy to throw it around today then, huh?
You would hope not, but I mean, it felt like a good opportunity to run the ball last week against Cincinnati at times.
Oh, you're telling me there's ability to run the football then here, huh?
There is. Hey,
okay,
look,
I like this.
You're talking about over the last 6 weeks, you have the NFL's second leading rusher in Rico Dowdle behind Saquon Barkley. And so he's been really impressive. And look, I think ever since this is a great example the last few weeks of why the offensive line is one and why it's a cohesive unit. And a lot of times it's a weakest link unit and different things like that. Because I think once you saw guys who step in who you wouldn't necessarily think are better players than the ones they were replacing, like, when you're talking about Zach Martin or when Tyler Guyton's had to go out or different things. They've come out with a play style that's more violent in the run game. They're more physical. They're nastier.
Yeah.
And I think it's something where it's like, well, this is an example of why line cohesion is so important. And where I think in theory you could have individual parts that aren't as good as the guy they're replacing, but as a unit, because of the way they play together and the way that they mesh, that it's helpful. Zach Martin was huge for Terrence Steele a couple of years ago.
He sure was, yeah.
Zach Martin was very limited this year, and I think similarly, not to the level that Zach Martin was a couple years ago, but I think similarly, Brock Hoffman coming in the lineup has helped Terrence Steele.
I agree.
Yep. And I think
healthier
that's
body.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think that they've got the ability to run the ball. Carolina doesn't have the ability to stop it. I think if they want to come out here and run the ball 35, 40 times today, I'm not going to complain.
This game could be over in like 35 minutes with the way that both teams will run the ball, right?
Yeah, I was guessing this would be the quickest game of the year.
And you got Bill Vinovich as an official who will not call a penalty, hopefully. This game could be, we could have a 6-hour post game show today if this works out the way it is.
I felt like that, Brian. Here's the only thing is that I've thought that too, and I've heard you say it a couple times this week, and I feel like we're jinxing ourselves, and we're going to get the slowest game with challenges. Maybe there'll be a weather delay in here.
No,
and
don't say that.
It'll be something where I don't even get in until like 4 a.m.
Yeah.
Is what I'm guessing will happen.
That would actually be maybe the funniest possible outcome.
I would love
here
to see you come rolling off the plane right into the studio and kind of like and have to deal with Sean Sharif. That would be fun.
Hey, not just Sean. No Choppy this week. So it's all me and Sean. And so I'm ready. I'm a gamer. Had to do it before. Stepped right off the plane. Went in off Pittsburgh.
Yep.
No issue.
All right.
Yeah, you're built for this. You're in great shape. I've seen you. You're ready to tote the rock 30 times.
How's the fan text been to you this morning, Eric?
Brilliance on your part.
I was completely just leaking confidence all over the place during that first segment. Like, wow, all the haters came out at the exact same time.
Yeah, me and Zach Rowe, 0-year-old producer, we were just sitting there on the bus, and we're like, let's just start texting in and talking about how Eric needs to be replaced. And see how quickly he gets distracted.
He was distracted. He was trying to ask me questions, and I could just see in his face that it was a problem.
Like, who's calling me Chiofalo right now? This is ridiculous.
I don't know if you should have said that.
Bobby, if you're putting your GM hat on, is Rico your RB1 for the Cowboys next season? Because he's unrestricted, but he's running his tail off.
I mean, he turns 27 in June, and I mean that has typically been the cutoff time for a lot of running backs in the NFL. Now it's a little different because you're talking about a guy who I don't remember if it's under 300 carries or under 300 touches for his career. So there's not a lot of tread on those tires, or there's not a lot of tread that's been taken off of those tires. The only problem is he has been injury prone, and he is a very physical runner.
He is.
And there's going to be questions about how much that stands up. You also, he may be putting a performance on tape right now that with him going into free agency, some other team says, hey, we'll outbid them. Dallas is a little tight financially right now, something Stephen Jones talked about this week. So, I mean, that could be a way that it plays out. I would not complain if Rico Dowdle is back next year as part of this offense, and then probably pair him with another running back who's maybe got a little bit more left in the tank than it looks like Zeke has. And if you do that, then I think you can have a good running game.
Was Zeke the one free agent signing, Bobby, that's just looked awful, or is the trade right now for Mingo the one that looks the worst? And I don't mean this as a slam to Mingo because he's yet to have a ball that's even close, whether he's playing at Carolina or with the Cowboys.
Yeah, he's done some decent stuff in the run game.
Yeah, I mean, if you put a 70 number on him, I would say he's a pretty damn good blocker. You know?
Yeah, I think that it's
the Zeke thing has to be the one, right?
Well, because here's the thing, Zeke's $2 million. I mean, it's not that much money, but it's more just about opportunity and what you're actually playing with, and that's the concern there. Honestly, I wouldn't say either one of those. I'd say that given all the issues that you've had in terms of depth and injuries and everything else, the trade that probably looks the worst right now is Trey Lance, because that's something where that's a fourth rounder who should be playing right now, and isn't. And instead, you've got a guy in there that you traded for that can't get on the field even once the quarterback's hurt. And so I think that one's probably damaged him most.
True or false, Trey Lance gets a start at some point before the end of the season?
I'll say false. I think that
that's
even
nice,
once they're eliminated,
false there, Bob.
No, because here's the thing. I mean,
it's a tough question.
They're likely to obviously miss the playoffs at this point. Mathematically, that's just the case.
Yeah.
I think that once they're eliminated, there's a shot, but I think instead it would just be he's going to play more. I don't think it'll be like him starting. I think you'll see them split games up potentially.
Gotcha. All right, you're a beast. We appreciate the time, man, and hopefully this is a quick game and you get home with the sun still up. Get home by dinner.
Love you all.
Love you more. There he goes, Cowboys
sure
insider
she
Bobby Bell.
In evil things.
All in good fun. Once I found out it was Bobby, it was like the weight of the world off my shoulders because the attacks were a bit violent. All right, we are still in the midst here. I mean, just over 2 hours to kick off. Noon kick in Charlotte. Let's keep it out there. Bank of America Stadium behind enemy lines with former Pro Bowl quarterback of the Panthers, Jake Delhomme. Next, right here on The Fan.
The big game is coming, and we're
ladies and gentlemen. Jake, thanks so much for the time, man. Happy game day to you.
Happy game day to you guys. It's I know it's not the season I think the Cowboys anticipated, and I think the Panthers are we're one of those teams that we're trying to find our way, but I think we're at that point where we're starting to go in the direction we need to go in.
Jake, what do you remember about your first start against the Cowboys?
I remember everything about it, man. December 24th, 1999.
Yeah.
We were a 2-12 football team with the New Orleans Saints, and pretty much Mike Ditka, I think everyone knew was going to be probably let go, and only game in town. It was a Friday and was able to get the start. And we came out hot. We played well and was able to get a win. Very nice. A memorable day in my career, to say the least.
I was working for the Cowboys at the time. I was sitting up in the press box, and you lit our ass up the way you played. So congratulations on that day for you, sir. Fine career.
Well, I appreciate it. It made for a very special Christmas.
Well, how much fun are you having doing the analysis on these games, Jake? Did you always envision yourself doing this?
You know what? I thought at some point I'm a football junkie. You know, I love football and love sports, and I always thought at some point I would get into it. And once I was done, football gave me the opportunity to kind of maybe decide what I wanted to do. And I had a couple of young girls at the time, and I helped coach soccer and basketball. So a few years I just wanted to do that, and then had the opportunity in 2019, and I jumped at the chance, and I love it. And I must love it because we haven't had much success, and I still love preparing for it week in and week out. I love doing the games. It's a lot of fun. My Luke Kuechly and I, we tag team a lot of the games together, and so we bleed Panther blue, and it's a lot of fun. I love preparing for games. It keeps me kind of involved, and I can't wait till we turn it around.
Hey, Jake, as a quarterback, nobody wants to be replaced or have to sit down for a few games. Was that actually a good thing for Bryce Young, or was that something that you would have just kind of like, I'm just going to let him keep playing and trying to figure it out?
I think it wasn't a good thing. I think it was a great thing, to be very honest. So last year, we struggled last year as a football team. We had trouble really and truly running the football. We had extreme trouble protecting Bryce last year.
Yes.
Adam Thielen was really and truly our one and only guy in the pass game. And so you watched Bryce last year. I think you saw flashes, but again, you're asking a rookie to come in. We had to trade away our number one weapon in DJ Moore because we got up to get him. So you just watched him get hit after hit, 62 sacks. He got out of 20-something more. But there were some flashes. You did see some flashes of good plays, the anticipation, the accuracy. So looking forward to this year, we made an investment in the guard position, spent a lot of money, signed 2 guards, and then the first game of the season, the first play of the game, he kind of trips coming out, airmails one, and it's a pick. And I don't know if it was deer in the headlights or whatnot, but he was a different quarterback, and he just seemed like he was when I say mechanical, he was just frozen, and he was missing people that he could make in his sleep. And then the next week against the Chargers, the same way. In my opinion, it was even worse. In his body language, he was that's one thing about Bryce. He's pretty stoic, but his body language was like somebody who was crippled mentally, you know? And so Canales did the right thing. I mean, hey, you need to sit down, and it might be a while. And you get to watch Andy, and Andy's a veteran, and Andy's just that true pro, and they got along so great. And I think sitting and watching somebody just sling the ball around, not put too much pressure on himself, and then lo and behold, fate steps in, and there's a car wreck. And so Bryce gets put back in, and he's played some better football, played decent football. You know, we beat the Saints, who was a team. Listen, that was a bad team at the time. Their coach got fired the next day. Then we go to Germany and beat the Giants, and that's not a good football team. Bryce was playing decent. And then we played the Chiefs here 3 weeks ago.
Right.
It was a different football player. Like, he led the team out the tunnel, something I haven't really seen. Just the first down, making the first down, some of the antics that he did, the smile on his face, the anticipation, the accuracy, stepping up into the pocket and not out the back of the pocket and getting a sack. It just became different. It was a feel-good game. Yeah, we lost, but that's the world champions. Hey, we took them. We tied the game up with under a minute left, and Mahomes' magic beat us. Well, then we played Tampa, and you felt like you gave one away, and he played really good again. And that was the gut punch, like, wait a minute. He's turning the corner. You can see something. And then they go to Philly last week, get the ball on the 3-yard line. and go all the way down the field and have a touchdown pass drop to take the lead against one of the best teams in the NFC on the road, you feel comfortable and good about where you're going. I'm looking forward to today. Hopefully there'll be continued progress from Bryce, but I think we all know this. Anytime you have a quarterback or you think you have a quarterback, it gives kind of an emotional lift to the team, and they love Bryce so much. And that sitting down made all the difference in the world. I just think it was a decompression for him, from the number 1 overall pick and running with the ones, and to last year, 3 different coordinators calling plays for him, not a good team blocking in front of him, only Adam Thielen really and truly in the pass game. And I think it's been refreshing for him to take that month off or so and just kind of relax. And he's just playing like a different person. He's enjoying the game. That's the biggest thing to me. He's enjoying the game, and he's playing comfortable and confident and fast. And anticipation and accuracy, it's there in spades right now.
Hey, Jake, does this defense miss Frankie Louvu playing run defense?
I think it does, but I think it misses Derek Brown more so than Frankie Louvu. Derek Brown, he's our best player, and it's not close, and everybody in the team will tell you that. And not having him coming off the record-breaking year he had last year with 103 solo tackles. But you do miss a Louvu guy, and Shaq Thompson, same thing. We lose him, and so we've had some injuries, and there's been much attrition on this football team, and Dallas is the same way. And I think you'll see that be addressed in the offseason and via the draft next year. But if the quarterback can continue to play the way he's going, you feel confident going in that direction, and then we can work on shoring up the defense. Look what we did in one offseason with the offensive line. You signed Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. Well, that made Ike Ekwonu become a much better left tackle, and it made Taylor Moton, who's been a stalwart here, a solid right tackle. And then Cade Mays is playing really well at center. So I think you can address those things in a year.
Behind Enemy Lines with Jake Delhomme right here on The Fan. Head coach Dave Canales in his first season, young, up-and-coming offensive mind. What's your evaluation of him, not only as a head coach, but what do you think about his offense?
Well, I think you just have to look at the product on the field. I think you're starting to see it, and it's been the last month. You're seeing us want to run the football. That's what he wants to do. We want to play that I guess Seattle type of way, have that Marshawn Lynch, the running of the football and big plays in the passing game. And that's something that I just think is the biggest thing, is that he's never wavered. He's always been he's a very meticulous, calculated, but confident, never too high, too low. And I'm going to go to Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield, who was here a couple of years ago and last year was part of his resurgence under Dave Canales in Tampa, and he called him the optimist bully. He said because you think it's fake, but he's so optimistic all the time, and he's the same guy. And that's it's rubbed off well with this program, with this team, and it's rubbed off well with the quarterback. And this team, there's a belief, because guys want to be coached, right? They don't care. You just coach me, make me better, make us better as a team, put us in good positions. And that's what I think this team has done throughout the course of the year, starting to maybe kind of understand who we are and who we want to be. And we've seen that reflect in our play the last 5 weeks, a couple of wins and then 3 tough losses in a row where you're major underdogs, but this team, you feel like you're giving them away.
Jay, could you give Cowboys fans any hopium that the Jonathan Mingo trade isn't going to just be completely useless for us?
Listen, in his defense, I think he's someone that got thrown into the fire last year, and it was more of a it was hard last year, guys. There wasn't any structure to the offense. 3 different play callers, Bryce running for his life all the time. There wasn't any structure, and I'm not exactly sure what happened this year, but you get Leggett, and we've got a find in this Jalen Coker, undrafted rookie out of Holy Cross, who I think is trending towards he'll be back today. And then Adam Thielen coming back, I just think it became like a numbers-type situation. But Mingo's a big, strong, talented young kid. I think he's still raw, so I think there's still some positivity there.
Well, Jake, we appreciate the time, man. Always enjoy hearing you, and enjoy the game today.
Hey, thanks so much, man. Have a good day.
Yes, sir. There he goes, Behind Enemy Lines with Jake Delhomme, former Panthers quarterback. I had a little nugget in there in the intro. He has the record for the longest touchdown pass in Super Bowl history. who was on the receiving end of that. 877-881-1053. In the meantime, I'd like to let you know that the creators of Buffalo Casino Games bring you NFL Casino Games. That's right, kick off with America's team on and off the reels with Cowboys-themed casino games developed by Aristocrat, a proud sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Do you have a gambling problem? Please contact 1-800-GAMBLER for 21 and over. All right, that's your trivia question. Who was on the receiving end of Jake Delhomme's record touchdown pass, the longest touchdown pass in Super Bowl history? Who was that guy? Text in, and we'll see if Broaddus can get this thing nailed without Googling it. No Googles, just brain power. And from one Panther legend to another, let's keep it back out there at Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America Stadium. Fox Sports' Greg Olsen, former tight end of the Panthers. He's a super beast. We love him to death. He's on the call today with Joe Davis and Pam Oliver, and he joins us next right here on The Fan.
Is your workplace on top of its game? For over 100 years, Pollock
no time. Visit mechurch.com, your ultimate destination for the freshest rubs and seasonings and barbecue supplies.
All right, we're under 2 hours to a Cowboy kickoff. Let's keep the pregame party rolling back out there in Charlotte, North Carolina. Bank of America Stadium, we welcome in another Panther legend, former tight end, Pro Bowl monster, and a friend of the program now, I think we could say, as he was basically the color analyst for all Cowboys games last year. For the second time this year, we welcome in Greg Olsen, ladies and gentlemen. Greg, thanks so much for the time, man. Happy game day to you. How are you?
I'm doing great, guys. It's always good to be on. I agree. I feel like I've probably been on with you guys about 8-9 times now, right?
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes.
And we've loved every single one of them. Trust me.
I appreciate it.
Amen to that, dude. We love it when you're on the call. You're fantastic at what you do, and it seems like you just keep getting better and better. How much do you go back and do you rewatch your games, listen to them? Are you taking notes on that kind of stuff, or are you kind of now, hey, Hayes in the barn, I know what I'm doing here?
I think it's one of those things that, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And to be honest, I don't go back and watch. I don't typically like hearing the sound of my voice, and maybe other people tend to agree. But, I don't love it. I don't like the idea of being rehearsed and scripted. So I feel like the more you go back, and I don't like predetermining what I'm going to say. I don't like predetermining lines I like discussing topics, and I like building out storylines that are relevant to the season and relevant to the game. And then once the game happens, just whatever flows out naturally, let it go. So I feel like sometimes you go back now, if there's a period of the game that you want to go back with your director and your producer and talk about, hey, we probably could have done a better job capturing, this replay angle, I probably did a bad job following along with what you guys wanted, and I didn't communicate. So, there's some mechanics things that you definitely work through, just as a crew, just to try to get it right the next time, and end of game situations and whatnot. But as far as just the flow of the broadcast, I don't. You learn each week, you get more comfortable, you face different circumstances in the booth live with each game, and like anything, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get. And I'm still learning every single week that I stand up here.
I'll tell you what, Greg, when you give me the pregame, the keys, I feel like you're 95% right every damn time. It's like I'm going, God dang, he hit this thing. And that just shows me a guy that preps and gets ready for these things.
Well, I appreciate that. I might clip this and use it on my next
contract
negotiation.
Yeah, we'll stand up for you. Absolutely. We'll be happy to stand up for you. But Greg, if we could get to the game, though, I do want to ask you this about this Carolina Panthers team. They've played a lot better the last 5 weeks. Is there something that you can kind of is it one thing, two things? Is there something that's made this team play better here the last several weeks?
I think as we all have watched the NFL, and you watch teams that play well and then teams that, then they struggle and they kind of go back and forth. It's very, very little that it's just one thing, right? So I think all the talk in Carolina is clearly Bryce Young, and it starts with him, first overall pick. The way his career looked 6 weeks ago versus the conversation that they're having now looks vastly different. So, of course, Bryce gets the vast majority of the conversation, understandably so, at the quarterback position, and he has played remarkably better. So when you dive into where has Bryce Young played better, first off, I think the scheme is a lot better fit. I mean, since he's come back, in the 5 games since he's come back, taken over, 2 wins and then the 3 close losses, he's attempted more under center play action passes than he did all of last year in his rookie year. And anyone who listens to our games, or anyone who kind of follows modern NFL offense, under center, first and second down passing is the easiest way for quarterbacks to get completions, to generate deep explosive plays downfield that everybody is mining, and it takes as much stress off the pass protection as you can. Last year, he sat in shotgun, he's in static, stationary spread formations. It's just a very hard way to play quarterback. So I think Dave Canales has done a nice job. And then from there, they invest over $100 million in 2 free agent guards. The offensive line's, a top 10 offensive line in the league. So his confidence is better. He's pushing the ball downfield better. And he's got a very good run offense with Chuba Hubbard and a very good offensive line. So offensively, you start factoring in all of those things, and you say, okay, that it makes sense that they're improving, these last 5 games.
It's Greg Olsen with us here on The Fan. As you study this Cowboys team, Greg, what are you seeing from Mike Zimmer, defensive coordinator, the way he's attacking defenses? Cowboys defense has definitely gotten better as the season has gone on. Could he throw some stuff at the young quarterback today?
Yeah, so I think back to some of the earlier games, even before the Washington game, where I actually thought they really played well. But even earlier in the year, we go back and we say, oh, man, this is not the Dallas defense that we're accustomed to. They're not playing from a lead. They're not rushing the passer. They're not generating turnovers. We kind of presented that entire formula, which made Dallas as many wins as anybody in the league in the prior 3 seasons, with 36. And their formula worked, right? Play from a lead, high-scoring offense, one of the best in the league, make everyone chase you to 30 points. And then you're going to just be pass rushing and making teams throw the ball down into coverage with 2 of the best takeaway corners of the last 5 years in Bland and Diggs. So what they did worked, and the offense made the defense better, and then vice versa. The issue earlier in the year, the points are way down. The splash players that you have built this defense around in Bland and Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence, and those splash players are not even in the lineup, right? So then you factor in, okay, you can't throw it against me, and that I'm built to play the pass better than I am the run, and you're just going to run the ball down my throat, and everything just unraveled on them. As they've gotten healthier, as the offense has played a little bit more consistent, gotten the run game with Dowdle going, playing a little bit of a lower scoring game, again, the offense and defense are starting to help each other out again. If Dallas could ever figure out how to score early and not trail, they're the worst first quarter team in the league. If they could just figure out a way to score early, prevent early scores, and play from a lead with Parsons back, with Bland back, with Oso Digizua rushing the passer, they're back now generating the pressure, generating those. That's how you generate the takeaways. It all goes hand in hand. So that to me is the key for them today. Start fast, put Bryce Young, put this Carolina offense in a trail position and say, are you willing to still run the ball with Chuba Hubbard all game, even if you're losing? Or at some point, are you going to go drop back mode? And obviously that's exactly how. So all that being said, I think this Zimmer vision of this defense started to come together over the last couple weeks because they got healthy, because he was able to kind of do the things he wanted to do, building off Dan's defense from last year. And there's now without Overshown, some of that goes away, but this is a lot better version of the Dallas defense than we saw earlier in the season.
Hey, Greg, I didn't know that when I do my draft study that I have to go to Holy Cross to find wide receivers, but this Jalen Coker's playing pretty well for the Panthers right now. I don't know if he'll get there today. We'll see with the inactives and stuff like that, but looks like the kid's been kind of a difference maker for the Panthers.
And he has, and he's kind of kind of the forgotten man. He's kind of the unknown factor.
Right.
And with Thielen coming back, and obviously what he's done operating in the slot, he's kind of the reliable guy that Bryce has been kind of looking towards in critical moments. It seems to, end of Tampa game, he has the go-ahead touchdown, and then in overtime he makes what looks like is going to be the game winner before the Chuba fumble, and he just makes play after play. And then of course with Liggett, and he's the first-round pick, and he's the super talented. It's easy for a guy like Coker to kind of fall behind, and we'll see what the inactives look like. He's battled some injuries the last couple weeks. I know they're anxious to get him back on the field, but there's a lot of young players, I'd say, for both Dallas and Carolina, and sometimes those young players get thrown into the action earlier than you wanted to, and in the moment, it's not ideal. But you look back over time and you say, even though we took some lumps, even though we didn't win as many games, even though those valuable young reps that we got in that 2024 season, in 25-26, it really paid dividends. I think both of these teams down the stretch, that's a big part of their approach as they finish up this season.
Former Panthers tight end Greg Olsen with us here on The Fan. Greg, who's the tight end or two that has caught your eye this year? The rookie Brock Bowers has been unbelievable, but who are some of the tight ends that you love watching right now?
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen a young tight end come into the league as impressive as Brock Bowers in a long time. I mean, you think about even some of the legendary guys that have played, that are still playing or had played recently with Kelsey and Gronk and Kittle and the names at the top of the list of everyone's mind. Like, those guys didn't bust onto the scene as rookies. I mean, what Bowers is doing in a bad offense with questionable quarterback play is pretty remarkable. And I think for anyone who watched him in college, it was pretty clear that, again, the college game has produced a lot of really good tight ends. This is kind of the golden era of tight end play. But, man, he was different in college. He's running away from SEC defensive backs, and it's carried over into the NFL. I mean, he's their best player. He's their most reliable player. And to do it on a team that's not necessarily littered with other players to take some of the attention away, I know Jaden Daniels, he's probably going to be the rookie of the year, but if you just look at who's had the most incredible year position relative to their peers, Bowers has had the best rookie year. It's just you don't have the same impact at tight end that you do at quarterback.
Well, Greg, this has been a real treat for us. As always, man, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy your homecoming there in Charlotte, and we'll be watching, man. Thanks so much.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Always good to be on.
Yes, sir. There he goes. Greg Olsen on the call today for Fox alongside Joe Davis, who was a real treat joining us a few weeks back. He was awesome.
Yeah.
So
that's a good crew, too.
It's a great crew.
Yeah.
Almost as good as the crew that we have right here on 105.3 The Fan and the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network. Let's go from Greg Olsen to the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, ladies and gentlemen. Brad, happy game day, dude. My bold prediction that is, of course, sure to go wrong today is that this is going to be the quickest game of the year. Just a bunch of handoffs.
Everybody's going to run all day long?
Yeah. Chuba and Rico.
I mean, it's easy to understand why you would feel that way. The faster it ends, the sooner we get home. So I don't have any problem with your prediction. It could go that way. The form chart would say that, but at some point, sooner or later, Babe always reminds me that sooner or later you're gonna have to throw the ball. How much and how quickly? The tough thing about it, Eric, is, and you everyone knows this. The runners need work to get into a groove, and the good ones get better as it goes along, which requires a discipline on the part of the play caller when it's not getting him everything he wants in the first quarter. The same plays might get him more in the late third quarter, but when he's not getting all of what he wants early, does he have the patience to stay with it, or is he going to bail out and start putting the ball in the air to move it around and say, well, I'll get back to the running game? Because then they never do. And that, I think, is the inward battle for both of them today.
Brad, this is my unfair question of the day for you, but you get to talk to Mike McCarthy every week. Do you feel like there's some things in the play calling that Mike just didn't have confidence in the offensive line, and now maybe he has a little more? Is that fair or not?
I think, and I don't know that I would, it is fair. I don't know if I would pinpoint exactly when, if we're talking about last week. I don't know. Bryan, we talked with Zach on the postgame show Monday night about I really thought that the undoing was what they failed to do offensively late in the second quarter. They had a couple of really unproductive possessions.
Yes.
Now, was that a result of the offensive line? When did BB go out?
It was like at halftime is when they made the announcement, or right going into the third quarter is when the announcement was made. So I think it was right before halftime when he got banged up.
So he played most of the first half, right?
He did, yes.
Yeah, so, and then who knows exactly how impacted he was toward the end. You'll hear McCarthy say today that, and this is quite a statement, that Brock Hoffman might be the smartest guy he's ever worked with.
Yeah.
Smartest guy he's ever worked with in 30 years of coaching.
Wow.
And so that makes you really want to get back in about a month and look at the tape and say, okay, how did that translate to physical play? Because, that's going to possibly have an impact next year down the road.
Yes.
But and certainly for the next month it would have an impact. So, Bryan, I don't know if that's what it was. I think this. I don't think that Cooper Rush is getting a lot of help from his receivers. I think he's got one guy.
That's a good point.
Who he can throw to, who will do everything he can to get open and catch it when he's not.
Right.
And then we've talked about this. I think Turpin is a guy who needs certain routes to be really effective, and every now and then they'll put him in a different position where I'm not sure he's set up for success. And then if you look at the rest of them, Brooks hasn't been able to get on the field for the last few weeks. They haven't really. Mingo's been a blocker.
Right.
I think Tolbert, for me, really like the young man. I think he's been a real disappointment. I think he's regressed as a player.
Very fair.
So they've got Cooks, but I think Cooks doesn't have. He's not going to win every route. So you've got Lamb, and then you've got a. So I think that impacts them more even than what they've been dealing with lately in the offensive line. I really do.
Voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, with us here on the Fan. Now under 2.5 hours to kick off Cowboys and Panthers. Now Maris Liufau gets more put on his plate with the Overshown injury. Is he at the top of the list for guys that you really have your eye on down the stretch here?
Oh yeah, he can handle it. He knows it's coming. I talked to him during the week, and of course we all remember he came in after Overshown got hurt, and he had a sack and a half, and he played, as you guys said, with his hair on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And he is really close to Overshown. Overshown's got. I hope people understand the impact that guy has in the locker room on everybody. He has very quickly become one of those guys who everybody follows and looks to, and and then in the linebacker room, it just is even more pronounced. And Liufau said, he had answered a question and comes back to say, I just want everybody to know what I did when I went in the game, that was for Overshown.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he will play like that to the best of his ability for the next month. And yeah, I think he'll get you can kind of deduce from the fact that Clark hasn't been active or has had very few snaps. If you look back at the snaps per game,
yes,
just the last 3 or 4, it's been all Overshown and Kendricks.
Right.
So now I think it's going to be Kendricks and Liufau. That would be my anticipation. Yeah.
Brad, it's kind of been a resurgence, or
hold on, Brian. Hey, Eric, save me 30 seconds to join the talk show before we have to bail out. Okay. Okay. Sorry, Brian.
No, you got it.
No, I'm going to ask you this about Luke Schoonmaker. And
yes,
man, I don't know of a player for the Cowboys that's faced more of just total scrutiny. I know Mozzie Smith faces scrutiny, but this kid's emerged from a lot of bad scrutiny about his game.
And it's easier to see him because people. You almost have to be watching tape to see what Mozzie Smith does or doesn't do, and Schoonmaker's in a much more visible position. And I said this during a game a couple of weeks ago. He wasn't in the doghouse. He was in witness protection.
Mm-hmm.
He was absolutely invisible. Ferguson got hurt. He stepped forward. And, in fact, based on all my years of coaching, when we were talking about the receivers and how do you get the offense working, you've got Ferguson now. You've seen what Schoonmaker and even Spanford can give you. I'm not sure that I wouldn't be trying to work multiple tight ends into the passing game a little bit more. Everybody loves 30-yard deep outs, but move the sticks. Throw the ball, get me 8, 10, 12, move the sticks. Keep the ball. And I'm not sure I wouldn't be using these tight ends more. And now part of the problem is they've had to use one of them to chip or help in protection. But, I think Schoonmaker has possibly, it may be too much to say, but I think he's possibly saved his career.
Brad Sham with us here on the Fan. Brad, I would love to get your thoughts on the Bill Belichick news from this week.
That's crazy. So how about this? Rico Dowdle needs to average 68 yards a game for the last 4 games to rush for 1,000 yards.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in September, if I had said to you, which bet do you want? Rico Dowdle is going to rush for 1,000 yards, or Bill Belichick is going to be a college coach before the end of this season. I mean, that would have been ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I don't know of anybody who thinks Belichick's going to be there for 3 years. I still think that it means something to him to break the all-time NFL coaching win record, and he can't do it at North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's interesting. He wouldn't. Even with the $1 million buyout after June or July.
Yeah.
So he could bail out. He doesn't have to coach a year in Chapel Hill, and it won't cost him but $1 million, which is he's probably got that in the cushions of his sofa. But I think that he still will come back into the NFL at some point. But he made a really good point, which is the way college football is set up now. It's not just NIL. The Cotton Bowl held a symposium a couple of months ago in October, I think it was, that Nick Saban was one of the speakers, and he was really interesting and eloquent about the fact that he said, NIL is great. We're not doing NIL. We're doing pay for play.
Yeah.
And that's what's happening. And so if the rules are that you basically have a system where you're going to pay players and you don't even have a salary cap, which might change by next year, but you don't even have a salary cap, then, Belichick can certainly, and here he comes and says, we're going to get you ready for the NFL.
Yeah.
Well, that'll get the attention of some young, not only recruits, but players who are at other schools who might think about the portal.
He just needs to evaluate, like if he needs a right tackle, he can convince a kid from Oregon to come play for him. Or if he needs a quarterback, he can convince a kid from LSU to go play for him. I mean, he doesn't have to wait about recruiting. He could just go out and trade for guys or sign guys, basically.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And the portal's open now, and he's looking at he's looking at tape, and he's knowing that, and you're 100% right. It's not like it used to be. Not like when there were all these big name head coaches lined up in the Broaddus household, trying to convince your mother to let her baby Bryan come play for them.
Yeah,
no, it's not like that anymore.
Ron Meyer told me he was at SMU, and he goes, "Listen, Bryan, we're all going to New England, and so if you want to go to SMU, it's going to be under a different coach." I said, "Thank you very much, Coach. Good
Appreciate
luck
your honesty."
Yeah, go use
I love Ron.
Yeah, go use a snowblower there to get a field goal off there in New England if you would. Yeah.
All right, Brad. Well, the floor is yours, man. Before we let you out of here.
Okay, so I really want to do a little pushback. This is not directed at you. It's something, a repeated thing that I've heard. A little pushback on giving up a 4 for Trey Lance. Giving up a 4 for Mingo, that one I will give anyone who says, why the hell would you do that? Mm-hmm. Giving up a 4 for Lance, criticizing it today is in my opinion, it's a weak second guess, because at the time they did it, you had a guy who was the 3rd pick in the draft. Everybody in the league thought he was at the worst a second-round pick, and he's a quarterback. And you're giving up a 4th 3 years down the road. For all you know, you've got a gem. And that's worth the gamble. It's all about risk-reward. Today, you look back and say, boy, that didn't look like it paid off. At the time, it was a deal that made a great deal of sense. You could have said, okay, I'd have given a 5th. But I think that's a highly defensible move at the time, not in retrospect. The Mingo thing, not so much. Mm-hmm. But looking back, I think that is a highly defensible move at the time.
I got you. No, that's fair. That's totally fair. We appreciate your thoughts on that and everything else, Brad. Enjoy the game. We will be listening, sir.
All right, boys. Have a good day.
Same to you. There he goes, voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, right here on the official pregame show of America's team. Countdown to kickoff under an hour and 20 minutes now. Let's go back out to Charlotte Bank of America Stadium. Who's in, who's out? Let's get the scoop from the best sideline reporter in the business. Christy Scales joins us next right here on The Fan.
And we're going to overtime.
Erica.
Brought to you by
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
All right, we're just under an hour and 15 minutes to kick off. Let's go live to Charlotte, Bank of America Stadium, and welcome in Christy Scales, Cowboys sideline reporter, giving us the scoop here as we continue to inch closer and closer to kickoff. Christy, happy game day to you. How are you?
Happy game day. I love playing in Charlotte, love Bank of America Stadium, formerly Erickson Stadium, and a lot of Cowboy fans here today. So I think and the weather is holding up, guys. It's in the 40s right now, and we had a little bit of light rain earlier in the day, but not too windy. So just talking with Bryan and the Cowboy specialists, and for a game in December in the Southeast, we've really caught a break today.
Christy, no longer the grass field there, right?
Correct.
We got the turf. Okay, good
right.
deal.
A few years ago, they switched from the natural grass to the field turf. So, another thing we don't have to worry about.
When you look at these Cowboy inactives, were there any surprises from you today as you go through the list? I know Flournoy. Does that mean Brooks active this week?
Brooks is active, and so that's really the only question that I had as to whether it would be Brooks or Flournoy. But of course, Jalen Brooks, this is a bit of a homecoming for him. He's one of the local guys. We have a lot of guys with Carolina ties here from the area, so that would be the only one. The others, of course, we know Trayvon Diggs going to have surgery on the knee. We knew Cooper Beebe, the starting center, was going to be out because of the concussion. Wanye Thomas misses another game with the knee injury that he suffered on Thanksgiving Day, and then running back Deuce Vaughn, who's been inactive most of the year, and then Tyrus Wheat, the backup defensive end, he's your sixth inactive. And as for elevations from the practice squad, Dakota Shepley, who's a backup guard and center, he is active for he's been elevated for the first time this season. He will be your backup center because Brock Hoffman has moved from guard to center, so we need a backup center. And then Andrew Booth, who had actually started a game earlier in the year for the Cowboys, he is elevated once again. But starting for Diggs today will be Amani Oruwariye. So maybe he can move from GOAT last week with the special teams gaffe at the end of the game Monday night against Cincinnati to hero today when he played against the Giants back in week 3, had a game-clinching interception there, a big play. So let's see if he can turn things around 6 days later after that crucial error at the end of the Cowboys-Bengals game.
Christy, I hope I'm not putting you on the spot, but I want to ask you about Diggs. Is this something that just they could not get over the hump on the injury, that it's like, listen, it's never going to get better and we need to fix it now before the season gets out?
Yeah, because it's not the same as the ACL. Same knee, but not exactly the same type of injury. And the other thing, he had been battling calf injury and groin injury, and frankly not practicing a lot.
Yeah.
He's missed, even though he's played most of the games, he wasn't playing a lot. It wasn't practicing a lot during the week, and so now with him missing the final 4 games of this season, and he missed the 15 games last year with a torn ACL. Over the past 2 seasons, he would have been on the field for only 13 games. So this is after he signed that huge extension. So, hopefully that surgery will get things right for next year, because it hasn't been a good return on investment so far.
Christy Scales with us here on The Fan. And, today's quarterback with the Panthers, Bryce Young, he's been playing pretty well, Christy. What are you hearing about the way they're going to try and stop him today?
Well, that's what the Cowboys defensive coaches say, that he's playing with some mojo now. And I know you were talking with Greg Olsen earlier about this, 5 games back since he had been benched. But it's kind of funny because the size, they list him at 5'10", but guys, he was out here just throwing passes with the ball boys, with the young guys.
Looks like a ball boy.
Yeah, the ball boys
Those
are bigger.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's the thing. In some ways, that can work in his favor in terms of talking with Greg Ellis, the former Cowboy defensive end and linebacker who made a living as a pass rusher for a while in the league. He says it's really hard to spot these guys. He says that it's like when they played the Chargers, and remember Darren Sproles, the really short running back that they had? It's hard to spot him. The other thing is he's great at extending plays, Bryce Young that is, and he's slithery. He can slide around in the pocket. He's not like taking off to run, not like a Jalen Hurts, but just like Joe Burrow, moves around in the pocket just enough. So first of all, it's hard to spot him. Secondly, he can slither out and extend plays, and it's something Coach McCarthy talked about during the week, going beyond that 2.3 second threshold and extending plays. And so something Greg Ellis mentioned, and it's something that I know I've talked about it ad nauseum during other pregame segments throughout the year, it's keeping the guy in the pocket, or as the Cowboys defense call it, keeping him in the cage. Rod Marinelli used to say, keep him in the well.
The well.
That's something that's really important today with Bryce Young, and they think that they can get a good pass rush with just the 4 guys, just the 4 down linemen today. Of course, you don't have Demo to blitz with Overshown being out for the year now, but they're going to try and mix in some stunts just to kind of change things up and hopefully confuse Young. He's just in his second year and doesn't have that many reps in the league, but they're hoping that they can get the pressure, keep him in the cage with mostly just a 4-man pass rush today.
Just got a couple minutes here, Christy, but we were talking about Luke Schoonmaker earlier, and I know you just had a chance to chat with him. What's he saying about today's game?
Yeah, well, he's excited. He's one of the game captains today. And
nice.
So Coach McCarthy on Wednesdays during the morning team meeting announces the captains. And so, I think that's another show of confidence in Schoonmaker as he's played so much better. So he was just happy about it. I said, did you feel like it was coming? He says, I was kind of feeling maybe, but I wasn't sure. The other game captain today, one of them for the defense, it's Maris Leofau, who of course will be starting and getting so much more playing time with DeMarvion Overshown going on IR yesterday. And then another young guy, second-year guy, Hunter Lipke, is your game captain on special teams.
Love it. And a homecoming game for Brock Hoffman today?
Yeah, he's actually from Statesville, North Carolina, which is just a 40-minute drive from Bank of America Field here in downtown Charlotte. And he played at Coastal Carolina his first year, and then ended up playing at Virginia Tech and played a lot of games there at Virginia Tech, 34 starts and 35 games at Virginia Tech. It's actually only 2.5 hours up to Virginia Tech as opposed to 3 hours from Coastal Carolina. But Brock Hoffman starting today at center, as I know you've been talking about, but going to have a lot of friends and family here. So this is a homecoming for Hoffman.
I love it. Well, you're the best, Christy. We appreciate the time. We'll catch up with you next hour.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bryan.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, Brock Hoffman, man, he's a beast, and he'll have a chance today. I mean, the Panthers giving up 170 yards per game on the ground. So Hoffman with the extra layer of it being a homecoming game, back to his natural spot at center. He's feeling good. All right, we're just over 60 minutes to kick off. Let's hear from Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. We'll go into the owner's box with the Jones boys and more analysis, of course, from the Super Bowl champion Bryan Broaddus. All next right here on The Fan.
The Medal of Honor is our country's highest military award for valor in combat. More than 40 million...
Touchdown, Cowboys!
With Brad Sham, Babe Loffenberg, Christy Scales, Eric Chiofalo, and Bryan Broaddus. Brought to you by
Deutsch Family Wine and Spirits, official wine of the Dallas Cowboys. AT&T, the official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today.
Also brought to you by
Bill Nunnally, behind every great company. Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Jack Link's Feed Your Wild Side. Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Tyson Foods. Get your Tyson Cowboy Star Nuggets. Available now. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Now, here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
All right, welcome into a Week 15 edition of the official pregame show of the Dallas Cowboys. Under 60 minutes to kick off. We'll go to Bank of America Stadium live in Charlotte. Hear from Mike McCarthy and Stephen Jones here coming up here in a few minutes. But my goodness, the Panthers are favored to win a game for the first time in almost 2 years as the Cowboys look to avenge their losses to the Big Cat teams this year. Losing to the Lions, losing to the Bengals, trying to get a dub in the win column there versus the Panthers, but they're playing some pretty good football right now. Bryan Broaddus, a Super Bowl champion, former scout of the Dallas Cowboys, ready to break this bad boy down, and let's go ahead and do it. Broaddus, happy game day to you. I know you love these noon kicks, man.
I do love these noon kicks. There's something about getting the pregame show done, watching the game, hitting the post, and then away you go. So yeah, if I got used to this when I was in Green Bay. We were not a very good football team initially. Well, the Packers were bad. The first year we were there, we finished 9-7, but every game was a noon game. We had like Randy Cross and was like the announcer. Like Greg Olsen was for the Cowboys last year.
Mm-hmm.
Randy Cross was our guy. It was him and James Brown were doing the game. So it's like we got to see those guys every week. They were part of the team that was on with us, but. Yeah, the noon game's the best, especially you get a noon game home and a win. Can't have a better situation than that, but this one's going to have to come on the road.
No doubt about it, and it looks like it's quite the Cowboy Nation takeover at Bank of America Stadium there. Bobby tweeted out, Bobby Belt, our Cowboys insider, there might be more Cowboys fans here in the parking lot than I've seen at some of the home games this year at AT&T Stadium. The road Cowboy fans showing up in a big way. And there will be no Trayvon Diggs today. Of course, he's out for the season. Eric Kendricks, though, in the lineup. That's huge with the Panthers team that's running the football pretty well with Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah, and that's what Dallas has to be really aware of today is the one thing that Bryce Young has shown, that we saw when he was at Alabama was the ability to scramble. And we've talked about quarterbacks that have given the Cowboys problems when they have that ability to run the ball. Wouldn't be surprised today if you see some designed runs from Dave Canales and this Carolina Panther offense where you get Bryce Young with the football, get him out on the edge. You saw some of the success that these quarterbacks have had being able to do that, and I'm not saying it has to be every snap, but you're going to have to be aware of the one thing, and Christy mentioned it, Bryce Young is a small guy. His size, he's a very small guy for a quarterback, but his ability to duck underneath, when rushers come and they go, he just kind of ducks down, they go over the top, and then he takes off running. There were several times in the Kansas City game where he just took off, saw a gap, and like, okay, I'm not going to be able to complete the pass here, got to run, and he makes something out of nothing. So Cowboys got to be wary of that today.
Yeah, I've been really impressed with Bryce Young. I mean, specifically that Chiefs game, watching it in real time a few weeks ago, and just the way he hung in the pocket and with pressure in his face, that's been one of the big things where, I mean, he's 10th in the league since returning to the lineup. Bryce Young averaging 7 yards per attempt when pressured. Yeah. And, of course, no Overshown today and the rest of the way for the Cowboys. So that'll slow things down a little bit. But Micah Parsons and company should have some opportunities to get after Bryce Young, but he's held up nicely with the mobility and then standing strong in the pocket.
Yeah, he is absolutely. And you mentioned the pressure, and they've done a much better job. Bryce Young has done a much better job of being able to kind of handle that. I think the condensed formations help him. I've mentioned that before where, the trips to one side, single receiver, but condensed formation, it packs everybody inside, but it kind of gives them a little bit better idea of where potential rushers and blitzers and stuff are going to come from. The play action with the crossing routes, the wide receiver delays. I mean, they've got a lot of things that they do or they've done the last 5 weeks or so to try and disrupt coverage. And if you play a lot of man coverage against these guys, they are going to find ways to run you through some of that trash. And those bunch formations, great opportunities to be able to pick guys off. And that's how they've been able to get their receivers open so quickly.
Got to be a big Rico day today offensively for the Cowboys. This is looking like one of the all-time worst run defenses that truly we've ever seen. 171 yards per game is what they are is what they've given up in 4 more games this year. That's crazy. And they give up 170 on the season.
It is wild.
It's bad.
It is wild. And you thought Cincinnati had some problems with the running game or defending the run. The Bengals, nobody has faced more rushing attempts than the Panthers this year. Nobody's given up more yards than the Panthers this year. What's funny is they play a lot of base defense. They just play with their 3 linebackers, 4 down linemen. It's weird when they play base. They're a better, when you look yards per play, they're right around 5 yards a play. In base, they get it nickel, they give up almost 5.9 yards a play. So it's weird. Some teams are really, really good and will play nickel defense the whole time, and that's just how they operate. The Panthers a little bit of the opposite of that. They're going to get probably a lot more base defense against the Cowboys, especially since the Cowboys only really have one receiver, as Brad Sham told you. Absolutely right about that. You could play base defense and try and handle this run the best you can.
All right, it's your Cowboys pregame show brought to you by Sleep Number, the official sleep and wellness partner of the Dallas Cowboys. Under 60 minutes to kick off. Let's go live to Charlotte, North Carolina, Bank of America Stadium, where the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, is standing by with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy for today's Coach's Corner. That's coming up next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Hey.
of your Dallas Cowboys.
Reliant, PUCT number 10007.
All right, we're just over 45 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Panthers. We'll go into the owner's box with Stephen Jones coming up here in just a few minutes, but right now it's time to throw things over to the voice of the Cowboys, Brad Sham, standing by live in Charlotte, North Carolina with Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy for today's Coach's Corner. Brad, take it away, sir.
Fellas, thanks very much. There's such a thing as buzzard's luck, and some people would say that's the luck that Mike McCarthy's team has this year when it comes to injuries. Injuries are one thing. You kind of pushed the envelope on that a little bit. You knew about Diggs yesterday. An injury in a team sport is also someone else's opportunity. So let's take it from the team perspective first. Knowing that you're going to be without him for the last month, does it change anything that you do?
No, frankly, it's just we have to go into the next man up. We've been rolling guys through there, all the way through. Obviously, AO will be the next guy up in that opportunity. But yeah, I just can't. I think it's happened a bunch this year. Trayvon going down with an injury, and it's just you feel terrible for him personally, especially watching him go through the rehab coming off of last year's ACL injury. So he's got a long road ahead of him. But yeah, we have to, we got to keep playing. That's what this game's about. And our young guys have done a good job of taking advantage of their opportunity, and we'll look for that to happen today in Carolina.
Is it nuts that the first thing I thought of when I processed that he was out was, dadgummit, I wish Josh Butler wasn't hurt now.
Yeah, Josh, boy, just his opportunity, and frankly, you could see that. He's a guy in practice that always showed up, super consistent. Kind of was making his way on special teams. But I think Josh clearly exceeded expectations when he went in there. And his knee injury was very unfortunate.
So Oruwariye, obviously a very tough spot for him last week. He came in the locker room and stood and answered questions like a grown-up during the week, and I was really impressed with his demeanor and the way that he accepted the fact that he was just involved in that really controversial play and then move on. What have you seen from him personally this week, and do you talk to him? Do you just kind of watch him and gauge where his head is?
Yeah, both. You definitely watch them. You watch all your players. The preparation is so important going into a game for everybody, and especially for an individual coming out of a situation that he was involved in on Monday night. Yes, I've had a conversation with him. I know a lot of people have, but he's a consistent pro. I think sometimes people forget how long he's been in the league, so he's played a lot of football. But I do respect the way he's handled it. He acknowledged the mistake, but also the understanding of his, it's part of playing football, and I think he was more than responsible and accountable and vulnerable to his teammates. And at the end of the day, that's what's most important.
He also made a big play for you earlier in the year, just after you got him. Is he a guy that, if Monday night hadn't happened, is this a guy you say, I'd trust him, put him in a game?
Well, I still trust him. He wouldn't be playing if we didn't trust him. So yeah, definitely, I still trust him, and he's, that's why, just going back to your question before, you got to watch your players, how they respond, and that's why you practice, and that's why you practice the way we do practice. Obviously, in a short week, we didn't have a padded segment this week, but we did have a good shells segment on Thursday, and I thought the team did a really good job with it.
Speaking of short week, and I know you know the statistic. You've been asked about it this week. Really good. Your teams seem to do really well adjusting to short weeks. Do you think that's a residue of the planning that you do to make sure that the work is handled right coming off a game?
I think the planning is a starting point, but the execution of the preparation plan is. I just got to give a tremendous amount of credit to the coaches and players. This team has been very, very consistent their approach each and every week. You have an opportunity to measure, different segments of your preparation plan, and for instance would be the GPS operation. And I just take yesterday's practice. I have not had a team this consistently be above the mark every Saturday. So they're, which to me is tells you they finished the week of preparation. There's no let up. They're coming into the game the right way. So in yesterday's workload capacity and the IPAs that the short burst and change direction measurements were probably we're in the upper 90 percentile. So we have a goal, and this team has exceeded it each and every week.
Changing gears, fans are interested in Tyler Guyton. Obviously, a high-profile player, has not had a chance to get on the field very much. Would you like to see him start to get some work?
Yeah, definitely. We'd like to try to work him back in today, but he's feeling much better. He's had a couple things he was working through, and look for him to maybe get an opportunity to play a little bit today.
Brock Hoffman, we've talked about, he's now going to be the center this week without Cooper Beebe. He doesn't care, does he?
He doesn't care about what?
Just put me in. Just let me play.
Yeah, love the way he goes about it. He brings a great attitude, but I think what gets lost in all that is just really how intelligent in the instincts and awareness of Brock. Brock is on top of his game. I mean, as all the centers that I've worked with in my 30-year career, he is as sharp as a tack of anybody that I've lined up with.
Appreciate the time, Mike. Thanks.
All right, take care.
All right, fellas, back to you.
All right, thank you, Brad Sham. That'll do it for today's Coach's Corner. Head coach Mike McCarthy there, and man, that was pretty glowing words about Brock Hoffman.
Yeah.
Do you think that if Beebe came back, who's out today with a concussion, the rookie center, but he projected maybe even more so as a guard coming out of K-State,
sure did.
Could you see that being maybe at the end of the season here?
Yeah.
Let's just put Beebe at guard and keep Hoffman at center, see how that works?
Let's be honest, though. Terrence Steele has played pretty well. There was a side of me that wanted to see maybe Guyton play right tackle. And so now go with Guyton at right tackle, go with Beebe at right guard, go with Hoffman at center, and kind of see how that looks for a couple of games. And, you might be in a situation where you might be in a situation right now where you're looking at what are you going to do with Steele? I mean, are you going to need his money to maybe do some things if you're in fact as tight to the cap as Stephen Jones is letting us to believe. Now, there's people that go out there and say, no, you can flip this switch, do this, do that. Man, the money thing always confuses me. How much are they really going to have? But anyway, there could be an opportunity there where you have to see maybe what you got with Beebe at right guard.
All right, we're under 40 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Panthers. Let's go back out to Bank of America Stadium into the owner's box with Stephen Jones. That'll be next. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Dallas football fans, have you heard Buffalo Wild Wings has 2 new limited time?
Volleman's Dairy, the official milk of the Dallas Cowboys. Arrow Exterminators, official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Buffalo Wild Wings. Blockchain.com. Blockchain.com. Make your crypto play today. And by DallasCowboys.com. Keep track of the boys with daily podcasts and up-to-the-minute blogging at DallasCowboys.com and on the official Dallas Cowboys app.
Here's Eric Chiofalo and Bryan Broaddus.
With 34 minutes to kick off Cowboys and Panthers, we'll get the Bryan Broaddus Zebra Report coming up here in just a few minutes. But right now, we throw things over to Christy Scales, standing by at Bank of America Stadium with Stephen Jones for today's Owner's Box. Christy, take it away.
All right, guys, we're in the bench area, 45-yard line with Stephen Jones, and I want to ask you about a young man who steps in at starting cornerback in place of Trayvon Diggs today, and that's Amani Oruwariye, and, of course, had the gaffe on special teams at the end of the Monday night game at Cincinnati, but I know that the Jones family loves a redemption story.
Well, we love it, and first of all, hats off to you for getting the pronunciation right. I still can't do it, so I call him A.O. But no, it's, I think A.O. was out there competing, and he understands the rules. It's just a reaction when you're in the heat of battle. You turn around and that ball's coming at you fast. You want to grab it. But he's been doing a great job for us all year. He had a little injury situation that he's done a nice job overcoming. I know Coach Zimmer and our defense really have a lot of confidence in him, and it wouldn't surprise me a bit for him to step out here today and have a big game.
And I'd love for you to talk about your defensive backfield, cornerbacks in particular, overall, because with all of the different starters that you've had this year and the injury situation, it seems like that position has been particularly hard hit, and it's just been a carousel.
Well, it has been, and it's unfortunate for Diggs, but I know he'll get that surgery done, and he'll come back better than ever. And he was fighting through it. He played through that injury during the game, which hats off to him for that. I don't think he made it any worse, but unfortunately he did have the cartilage issue, and it's something that is significant, and is going to take a surgery that'll take him quite a bit of time to return from. But it's about an 8-month deal. But overall, just to see the guys step up. I mean, Bland has come back and played really well. I know our safety group's doing well. Hopefully we'll get Wanye back next week. But at the end of the day, this is NFL. No one feels sorry for you. It's the world's smallest violin, and we understand that. I mean, it's next man up, and we've had our share of challenges, but hats off to Coach McCarthy and his staff. They have the guys competing their asses off. I mean, Cincinnati last week, we had every chance to win that game, and they're a real solid football team that's lost some real heartbreakers. So, the biggest thing I love about this team is they can continue to fight, continue to compete, expect nothing less today.
Stephen, I know it was a huge blow to also lose in the linebacker core DeMarvion Overshown with the injury, but Maris Leofau not only stepping into the starting lineup, but also a game captain today.
Well, these are great opportunities for young players like Maris, and for him, he's stepping up right now, and not only is he playing to win us a game each week this year, but his future. And of course, that's what happens when these young guys get opportunities. Overshown, obviously playing amazing this year and making himself a mainstay for our future. But a guy like Amaris to step up really makes, from a personnel standpoint, makes us feel great about what his role will be in the future. So I expect him to come out and have another great game today, and expect all the other guys, whether it's A.O., whether it's a T.J. Bass or a Hoffman, I expect all these guys to step up and play well. They want to be here in the future and want to win games for us right now.
Stephen, I'm glad you mentioned Brock Hoffman, who steps in for Cooper Beebe today as the starting center. It's a homecoming from him. He's from Statesville, just about 40 miles up the road. But we've talked about him playing with an edge. Babe Laufenberg and I have put the over-under at the 13-minute mark of the first quarter for the first dust-up with Brock Hoffman. Would you like to take the over or the under?
I think it'll happen much sooner than that. He'll have it stirred up early and often.
Okay, that means that McCarthy's going to take the ball if we win the toss. You heard it here first.
Well, I know one thing. We want to run the football today. That's a big part of our game plan.
We appreciate the visit. Thanks so much, Stephen. As we continue countdown to kickoff at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, let's rejoin Bryan and Eric.
Thank you, Christy. And today's Owner's Box is brought to you by Yeti, the official cooler of the Dallas Cowboys and the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders.
We learned something there, though. 8-month injury right here for Diggs. That thing's going to carry him all the way into August with the cartilage.
Yeah.
He said it's an 8-month injury is what he's looking at. So here is another OTAs, another mini camp.
Probably a good chunk of training camp again.
A good chunk of training camp. Will he be ready? Man, that does not. I was not very encouraged. I thought it was something reasonably simple.
I was hoping it was like a scope.
Yeah, but this is pretty significant, I would say.
Jeez,
when you start talking about cartilage and 8 months, I mean, we're going to be in Oxnard and we're going to talk about no Diggs today. Look who's playing. Rookie this, rookie that. No Diggs.
Man,
so,
we need that Kalen Carson pick.
Man, I tell you what,
to start to blossom at some point. Hopefully, he gets back in the mix at some point.
I really thought that Kalen Carson was going to help this football team a lot.
All right, well, it's been one of those years, It just has.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get to know the enemy. Hopefully, it's not the referees, but today's Zebra Report brought to you by Arrow Exterminators, the official pest control provider of the Dallas Cowboys. Broaddus, what you got for us?
We got Bill Vinovich today. Bill Vinovich, traditionally one of these guys that will let you play. He's usually near the bottom of the table when it comes to penalties called. He did officiate your game earlier than October 27th against San Francisco. 6 calls against you that day. 2 of the calls against the offense, 4 of the calls against special teams. Like I say, usually lets you play. What you need to know about Bill Vinovich is he's going to get you for an offensive holding call in these games. His crew's going to call a defensive pass interference generally. You got to watch out for neutral zone infractions with this guy. The way you line up or jump into that, if you're moving around, usually you get that situation where you have linemen that move in and out of the, off the line, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, that looks like that's illegal motion right there. That's illegal motion. No, and then they call it on the defense for a lot of the movement stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Unnecessary roughness. He's had 6 of those calls. And then illegal formation, 5. So now it's all about, once again, being able to line up on the ball. Don't play from some depth. Don't let a big play be wiped off the books because you were too deep in the backfield if you're a tackle. They also look at delay games. We've talked about that before with these officials. If they start to clock watch and you're playing on a road environment today, be careful, be mindful of where you're at in the clock.
Okay, there it is. Today's Zebra Report as we continue to get you set for Cowboys and Panthers. Just over 25 minutes to kickoff. Let's go inside the booth live from Charlotte with Babe Laufenberg. That's next. You're listening to the Dallas Cowboys Radio Network.
Miller Lite is brewed with great taste and only great taste.
Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys football tastes like Miller time. Celebrate responsibly. 2023 Miller Brewing Company, Fort Worth, Texas.
All right, we're 20 minutes to kickoff. Let's go to Bank of America Stadium inside the booth with Babe Laufenberg, brought to you by the WinStar World Casino and Resort, the casino of the Dallas Cowboys. Please game responsibly. Babe, happy game day to you. Would love to look at these Panthers, and especially Bryce Young. But first, would love to get your thoughts on last week's punt block fiasco and just your player perspective on that whole situation.
Yeah, you know, how many times is punt block followed by fiasco?
Rarely for the team blocking the punt.
If you're getting your punt blocked, then it's a fiasco. Yeah,
then it's a fiasco. But yeah, it was a crazy play, as we all know. I always say it can be the fog of war, right? And Amani Oruwariye, he's pushing his guy out as a gunner. We won't get into all that, but the ball comes. He sees the ball bouncing, and he doesn't know if Turpin has fumbled. He doesn't know what's happened. He sees a ball, and his instincts took over. And I always used to argue with Jason Garrett about that, because he said, I always want instinctive players.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, no, coach, your job as a coach is to coach instincts out of them. Instinctively, Amani saw that ball on the ground, so I better get on it.
Mm-hmm.
His instincts took over. And it's like I say, hey, a dog sitting on the porch, right, not on a leash, he chases cars as they come down the street. Well, eventually, you got to go back to little Johnny and say Fido is in that dog kennel in the sky because he just got run over chasing cars. So you coach instincts out of your dog and you coach instincts out of your players.
Boom, there you go.
I'll tell you what, though, Babe, if that ball gets knocked to the Dallas bench, I don't think he picks it up because everybody on that bench is screaming. I think the Cowboys caught a really unfortunate break that the ball deflected towards the Cincinnati bench.
Hey, that bench, Brian, they were probably all saying, dive on it.
They were. I'll tell you what, you watch the sideline. They were in shock that they had a punt block.
Oh, yeah.
And then elation when he jumps on that ball or tries to. But, yeah, I think they caught a huge – it was just a terrible break that ball did not deflect towards the Dallas bench.
Yeah, and now let me go back to the very end, too, quickly here. The Cowboys got the ball back after the Cincinnati touchdown. They had a minute left in the game. They had all 3 timeouts.
Yep, didn't do anything.
So they had time to move the ball. They made 1 first down and then threw 4 incompletions, basically. Yep. So the notion that, if they had just punted it, we're going to go 50 yards, kick a field goal, and win the game, not so fast, my friend, as Lee Corso would say.
That's right. Well, what is Babe Laufenberg saying about Bryce Young right now? He's spinning it.
You know, definitely improvement. I think it was good. I always think it's better to play a quarterback 10 games too late than 10 minutes too early. And I think he had that chance when Andy Dalton started for those 5 games to kind of sit back and take it all in. When he went back out, I think he was more ready to play than if he had played those 5 games. And I know you guys have touched on it, but the other part of this, they've got those 2 guards protecting them up front. They're both really good, and that has helped.
I love it, Babe. You're the best. We appreciate the time, man. Enjoy the game. We'll be listening.
Thank you, guys.
All right, now let's keep things in Charlotte. We'll go down onto the turf there at Bank of America Stadium and welcome in Christy Scales for her keys to the game, brought to you by Pollock Aurora, proud supplier of the Dallas Cowboys. Christy, it looks like this might be a bit of a home environment there for the Cowboys, and they're wearing their blue jerseys today, I see.
They are wearing their blue jerseys and a lot of the blue Cowboys jerseys in the stands today. Bank of America Stadium seats just over 74,000 fans, and this looks a lot like last year when Carolina was really struggling and it was a Cowboy takeover. So at least in this lower levels, it looks like another Cowboy takeover today. But as for a key today, you know, with the Panthers and Cowboys, these 2 teams are eerily similar. And what I argue is the most important statistic in the NFL when it comes to determining wins and losses. Turnovers, of course, but extrapolate that even further. It's points off turnovers. What's the ratio? So neither the Cowboys nor the Panthers this season have done a good job of taking the ball away, and thus they haven't scored a lot of points off of takeaways. So the Panthers have only 13 takeaways all season long, have only resulted in 32 points. The Cowboys have a couple more takeaways than the Panthers, 15, but have only scored 30 points. So today, who can take the ball away and cash it into points? So the defense for the Cowboys has been better these past 4 games, 7 takeaways leading to 24 points. So can they continue that trend today? So Don't just take it away, but do something with it once you finally make that catalytic play.
Hey, Christy, with AO starting today, any changes on special teams we need to know about? I know he was playing primarily. Anything that you could kind of pick up or anybody tell you anything about that, of who might be some of the guys playing some different spots?
Yeah, you've got guys like Andrew Booth that's going to have a bigger role. He's elevated today, and so he'll be taking some of AO's reps there. And then Damone Clark, who has been inactive a few times in the past couple of months, the backup linebacker. He's active today, not just because you need more depth at linebacker with DeMarvion Overshow now, but he's one of your key special teams guys.
Well, Christy, you're the best. We appreciate the time. Enjoy the game. We'll be listening.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Bryan.
There she goes, Christy Scales, Cowboys sideline reporter right here on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And now it's prediction time, Broaddus. And, man, I can't get that out of my head of what Mike McCarthy said there. Or Stephen Jones said there with Christy a few minutes ago about Trayvon Diggs.
Yeah,
just the extent of this injury here.
Yeah, what's there's the medical term about it.
The chondral.
Yeah, he's got a chondral problem. It's not an ACL injury, but go ahead. I think you got what it is.
It's the bone.
Yeah,
and the cartilage and stuff like that. I don't know the exact science behind it, but I guess this is a little bit more serious than we were kind of hoping for with Diggs.
It's so not to deal with the ACL or anything like that, but the bone is a problem in that knee.
And I saw Clarence Hill say that of DLLS, I can tell you that the Cowboys were not happy with the way Trayvon Diggs attacked his previous rehab when it comes to the ACL. And so he says that the knee injury is serious and 2025 is in danger. That could be 2 players lost for next season in a matter of 1 week from Overshown to Diggs.
Yeah.
So that's a bummer. That's part of the reason I like the Panthers today. No Overshown, no Diggs. Panthers obviously playing with some confidence here. Both rushing attacks are going to be awesome.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that puts the Panthers over the top is the way Bryce Young is playing. They clearly have the quarterback advantage in this particular game.
They do.
I got Panthers 20, Cowboys 16.
Yeah, I would pick Dallas to win this football game. I think Carolina's once again going to try to keep things close. I think Dallas will find a way to maybe get a stop or two. I think Carolina's defense is just not very good. Dallas really all they have is the running back and 1 wide receiver. Let's see if somebody else could step up in this football game. They haven't had that very much here. I mean, they had the game Monday night, though, was really, they needed more, and they need to get more today to beat this Carolina team. But I'm going to say Dallas 24, Carolina 20.
It's playoff time in fantasy football. I think the Rico Dowdle owners are going to feel good about what happens today. Should be going for a big one. But all right, that'll do it for us. Kickoff is around the corner with Brad, Babe, and Christy. Make sure you stick around for the halftime and postgame shows with Bryan Broaddus and Zach Wolchuk. Dallas Cowboys football will continue in a moment.
Tom Thumb's new Drive Up and Go service.